Hello and welcome to another episode of Property-Pxrn Stars, the premium property podcast brought to you by your hosts David Lindley.
And I'm Matt Giggs.
And today our guest, our star, is none other than Simon Cowie, who is the Managing Director of By Design in Warwickshire and also brings a particularly unique blend of visual marketing to the properties that he lists and sells, which we'll get into today. And I've got a question to kick off with. But first of all, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Good to see you.
So when we were talking before, you described yourself, actually we were talking about how to introduce you.
Yeah.
And you're quite a unique way of introducing yourself to clients.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that. What do you say when you introduce who you are and what you do?
So I'm a designer turned agent.
Which
so
is quite a unique thing.
I guess so. Because I don't come from a state agency. I started 2021 in the self-employed model. And I never wanted to join a high street agent. There's certain reasons why I got into it and stuff, and from a design background, I worked a lot in.
So let's start there actually. So let's start with the design because that's where your background was, and then we'll build up from there as to how you come to the work that you're doing now. So you started in design.
Yes. So I was a designer for 10 years.
Yeah.
Started at an architect company. They were second largest in the world. Worked in their marketing department, and really kicked it off from leaving university. And for about 6 years worked in Soho, in working with Nike and Puma and Marks and Spencer's and people like that, doing retail on Oxford Street and Regent Street and all around Tottenham Court Road and all that kind of area. So
literally like designing shop windows and things like that.
Yeah, so we did launch for the brand new football boots for Puma. We would create the new displays, we'd create literature for it, work really closely with Puma. They were my main client at the time. And so, it was very client focused and very visual focused.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting because as soon as it goes out, you can walk up Oxford Street and see your work.
What drew you to that in the first place?
The design.
Yeah.
I've always been more on the art side growing up. From school, I always did sort of design and art and, product design and stuff. And they tell you very early on to choose what area you're going to focus on. And it was my art teacher who said, look, go down design. I think it's going to suit you. He told me where to go, which university or art college. And that was it. Never really looked back. I left school, did 4 years of college and then straight into London industry.
Well, you can go back to him and say you're an estate agent now. So
I know I can go back.
Happy days. You've made the steps up.
Absolutely.
But, that's a great backstory. I haven't met many designers turn estate agents. So what happened?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Where did it all go wrong? I was going to say that, but I didn't want to kind of,
No, it is interesting.
It's an interesting, diverse switch.
Well, I have spoke to David about this because I was embarrassed to tell my dad I was changing careers to be an estate agent. Genuinely, it took me I wrote a long email to him rather than actually call him.
Oh my God!
That's how poorly I thought of the industry.
Wow.
But it was around the time, and I'm going to be absolutely slated for this, around Selling Sunset coming out and all that kind of stuff. So, $1 Million Listing, all of these were on TV. And I was in a career, I was the design manager. I ran everything, all the creative that we put through.
Yeah.
But still, I was earning a capped fee, a capped salary. And I was, 34, something like that. And I just thought, I need to be earning more money and I want to have a better lifestyle. I want to have a bit more control. I want to run a business. That was quite important to me. I looked out to see who did something similar to $1 Million Listing and Selling Sunset, basically.
Just take a quick diversion. Come back to your story in a second, but just interested to hear both your opinions on this. Are those types of programs?
Yeah.
Are they good or bad for the industry, in your opinion?
They're not bad. They're not bad for the industry. I think they're really good for the industry. I'm going to go the other way. I think they're actually really good for the industry because I think they show a level of how other people around the world sell properties and what is involved. I mean, they don't go into the depth of the staging and, the marketing that they do. It's more the glamour and, the girls and the properties and all that kind of stuff. But they do touch on the level of kind of effort to prepare properties and that. And that was something that I found really interesting because that is exactly what I used to do. I used to prepare shops, and we used to design every little tiny detail. So preparing for one launch took us months, and yet people put properties on the market they'll go, oh, we'll get it over,
How quick can you get
online
it
by
on
today
Rightmove?
or this evening.
Yeah.
And I've spoke to a few people about, the whole time kills deals, that kind of thing. Time kills deals because people do things too quickly. I think people need to take a step back and do a 2-week marketing campaign or a 3-week marketing campaign, because the longer people are wanting it and can't get into it, the more demand there's going to be.
I think they're saying, isn't it? Speed to market doesn't mean speed to sale.
No.
And I think there's a lot to be captured around that, especially if the higher you're going up the pricing ladder.
Yeah, definitely. And I get pulled up on it because they'll say, well, how quick can we get it online?
That's a great question we all get asked.
Yeah, and I'll say probably 7 to 10 days from when we can get the videographers in. Because we need time to edit, we need time to prepare all the literature, we need to start pushing it out, coming soon, all this kind of stuff. There's so much involved before people actually get to see the final listing.
Okay, this is quite interesting actually now, isn't it? I wasn't expecting us to go down that hole from selling sunsets. But so when you're talking to a vendor then, and let's just give you an extreme example, how quickly can you get it on Rightmove?
Yeah.
What do you say back to them? What's your strategy you deliver back to them?
So there's a week of preparing all of the literature and the media, from the day we can come in. So there's 7 days from there. We'll try and launch it near the end of the week, because we know that there's quite a high hit rate from people starting to look on Fridays as they're getting a bit bored later in the day. Then across the weekend they can talk about it. So by Monday we're probably getting calls, or even on the weekend. Once we've launched it, there's then 2 weeks on market before we're even going to show it to anyone. We want to create that anticipation of, I want to see this property, I want to get in now, I want to get in before anyone else. That's absolutely fine, but we can't get in until basically 2 weeks later. And people still book on. And we're going to lose a couple of people along the way who have found something else, and that's absolutely fine. But I will always tell them, wait, let's not get people in early, because we don't want one person with one offer. We want 6 people offering against each other, or bidding against each other. And
I think
play the long game.
You might lose people where they've found something else. I don't think in the premium market that happens quite so much, because each property is so unique. It's not like there's a row of properties which are all the same. One might come up quicker, it doesn't matter. They're not so commoditized. So I guess that's going to be even more important in the premium market where you operate.
I think so. And you have that conversation when they call up. What is it that's drawn you to this? And that's always my first question when I meet people at the property. What's drawn you to this location? What's drawn you to this property? I want to understand exactly why they're here, rather than just take them on a tour and show them something that actually might not be suitable. Because if they're looking for equestrian facilities, or they're looking for an annex, or they're looking for an acre because they want to have some business running on the back of it, let's go have a look at that first. So I want to make sure that the house is going to work for them. And as soon as I know what they want, I put so much focus on that. Let them fall in love with that. The rest will just be second to that. So
that's really interesting. And I find that's one of the big differences between the resi market and the premium market, is there is this urgency to get it on Rightmove.
Yes.
Whereas in the premium market, you have to turn that on its head.
Yes. When I started out March 2021, I was selling, the first 2 properties I had were £180,000 flats. And then after that, it was about a £300,000 house. And my marketing strategy worked incredibly well for those properties, but it was a hard sell for people to give me money up front, to pay the fees that I was asking for straight away, which were much higher than the high street. But the results were incredible.
Right? I think this is one of the things, I think people talk about being different to the competition. When you're having those kind of conversations, you're not just saying it, you're demonstrating it. And I think there's a massive difference between presentation and demonstration. Just going to answer your question.
Yes, sorry.
No.
Important stuff.
only because it's with Daniel's recent Netflix series, you see the critical side of people seeing him do well on that and get the exposure that it's got. And my observations are, it's entertainment first. It's not a documentary. It's entertainment.
It is.
So it's drawing eyes on the premium, prime, super prime market. It's really interesting for people, which can only really be a good thing for the industry itself. And actually, especially when I think they do get some raw footage of how long it's taken for someone to actually get a deal. And in fact, if you watch Daniel's episode, I didn't see many deals done. I saw a lot of houses being shown off market. And I think that really highlights the difficulties that agents actually have. So I think it gives a fair representation. And I think if it was a documentary, then you dive into a completely different journey. The stress, the resilience that you need to show, the management of the public and how freaking hard that can be sometimes. Or if you build a team, have a team, what's it like when they don't turn up or when they quit on the, so that two totally different spheres. Netflix is all about entertainment.
You've made me laugh in the past, Matt, when you talked about those, it's not a Netflix thing, but you have the sort of influencers a day in the life.
Yeah.
And it's like having a coffee now.
Yeah.
I'm doing some yoga now.
Yeah. They haven't seen them pick up the phone yet. Where's your clients? It's all you at the minute. And I think this is coming back to your point. What I'm finding really fascinating, listening to your way round, is I think your fresh perspective has played to your advantage.
Yeah.
So it's like fresh eyes. When you bring someone into a business, actually, the downsides of bringing an agent into your organisation is, I hate to say this, but there can be damaged goods because they may have the bad habits, the bad mindset. They'll look at fees as a reason why someone doesn't use them, as opposed to looking at what can they do to improve their level of understanding of a customer. So I'm a great believer that fresh eyes coming in, yes, experience can be really beneficial if you haven't got the emotional intelligence. That's it.
I agree with that, because I came into it not knowing the process. Like, I don't know how the high street agents work. I don't know how you should be making the phone calls and how often you should be following up and how you should be logging their data. Like, at the beginning, I didn't know any of that. I put a huge focus on how are we going to present this property and how am I going to keep my communication constant with these guys and anyone who calls in, and make sure I'm available constantly, completely against probably what most are taught.
But that's why it's right. No, I hate to say it, like, not to step across what you're saying. But, if you understand someone's number one priority or needs, which is what you were referring to earlier, you're not going to ring them up every 5 minutes, bothering them. When you do ring them up, because you've understood them, they're going to listen to you.
Yeah.
There's a massive difference of trust being built there. And I think that's emotional intelligence. So you give me someone who's got 10 years experience, or they've got no real understanding of how to work with a customer, because all they've been taught is how to get what they can, and then turn people off after the transaction.
I think so. And I think we really focus, and since I started, really focused on trying to go above and beyond. Like, there's this kind of comment of, he goes above and beyond, she goes above and beyond, all that kind of stuff. And I think you can go above and beyond by just doing your job.
Yep.
You don't actually have to do anything incredible. Like, you don't have to pack up all their goods and put it in a van for them and move them. You just have to do the basics really, really well, and just make sure that they feel comfortable the whole way, and speak to them at 9-10 o'clock at night when they're just fretting about this has happened, or we don't think we're getting enough interest on this, or what's happening with this. Like, you just have to talk to them. And I know a lot of agents that you guys will have spoken to, we're not just agents, we literally are counsellors, and we are 100%. Friends, and we are, everything other than just give me your property. We'll shove it on, like it's a bike going on eBay, we'll just chuck it on and see who bids. There's so much more to it. And people said to me, oh, what's your background? How long have you been selling for? And I would tell them, and they go, well, that's a big change. And it's not at all. Like, I'm just marketing something different. I'm still marketing. It's just, I'm no longer doing high-end, trainers or sports goods or, food and watches and all that kind of stuff. Now it's just high-end properties.
It's the people industry, really, isn't it? More than the property industry. Because I think in the nicest possible way, the property will sell itself to some degree. The location, what it has to offer, whether that really fits someone's needs. So the principle of being a great agent for me is about understanding people. Mm-hmm. And then how to market the solutions and to the right audience, and actually finding that audience to fit that all together and to match it all up.
Yeah.
And I completely concur with what you're saying.
And I think that goes back to when someone comes around to the house to view.
Yeah.
What is it you're looking for?
Yeah.
Tell me that first. Let's try and address why you're here. Not, I've got a product and I really want you to buy this because then I get paid. Like, if this isn't going to be right for you, actually, I think I've got something coming on that is going to be better. Now, I'm not going to push them to that until they've ruled this one out. But, I talk to buyers and I talk to sellers like, look, this is not about this sale for me. This is about me working with you for the next 10, 15 years and your family and your friends and your colleagues.
Yeah.
I want to be the person you trust and pass on, business to.
It's a lifetime relationship.
Definitely. Yeah. We've just gone under offer on a property which is above 1.25 million, and the owner's sister-in-law has just called me before we stepped into here to go out and sell their property, and it's probably in the region of 2 million. Because they said apparently you've done a brilliant job. They really love how they worked with you. Can we see you on Friday?
It's a funny thing that in other industries that they have this term which is lifetime value of the customer when they try and analyse a business, and it's the first time it's ever come in conversation where you think, okay, you're looking at the customer for the entire lifetime of their transaction with you, which might not be directly related, but it's all the referrals and recommendations they give you off the back of that, and that's where the value in that customer comes in, aside from the immediate.
Yeah.
Going back, Simon, because we've gone down 2 or 3 rabbit holes here.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that.
It's all good. We were talking about your journey to where you are now, so I think we're just come to the end of the design phase.
Okay. Yeah.
Well pulled back. Pulled us back.
Yeah. I feel like it's Inception. The film we go layers and layers and layers into a dream, and now we're talking about Selling Sunsets.
Yes.
So sorry, you just watched Selling Sunsets and thought that was the career for you.
I did.
Got you.
Yeah. Thanks for going back to that bit. I've been fortunate sort of growing up. I grew up in a beautiful home, and I went to a really nice school, and I know people who have beautiful homes, and being in the design industry, I look at details, I look at furnishings. I love interior design. And again, this goes against something I think you spoke to Daniel Daggers about it. This isn't about, do you love property? I want to sell property. But I think there is an element to that because you're still selling.
You've got to be passionate about
If you're not passionate about the product you're selling, then you are just a salesman.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not passionate about cars. Like, I like cars, but I wouldn't be able to sell cars because
Don't really care.
I don't really care. So I think there's definitely an element that you actually have to enjoy the subject that you're working with.
Yeah. No, I can see your perspective there.
So you enjoy the subject that you're working with, but you weren't working with it yet. So what happened then?
So then I reached out to self-employed estate agency companies, and Fine & Country were the one that I felt had the best brand image and were selling the right kind of properties that I was thinking of selling. And so they offered me a position to work with them in a certain location, which was close to where I was, but it wasn't exactly where I lived. And then I was approached by another agency who were linked quite similarly with Fine & Country, and they said, why don't you come and join us? We'll let you work in the area that you want to work, and you can sell premium homes. Now, it's not a sector that they dealt in, so they said, we want you to kind of go, and run with it. Like, see if you can make it work. They've since rebranded and set up a premium section of their business, hopefully off the back of what me and some of the other agents were doing.
Brilliant.
And then it got to a point where, because they were across both sections of the lower end, middle end, and the high end, I wasn't feeling there was a strong enough focus on the high end. David had reached out to me for a conversation, and we had a...
If I remember correctly, there was quite a long time.
I did ignore you for a long time. So I think you messaged me in October, and I messaged you back in about February.
Yeah.
Because I was busy, doing what I was doing. And I do get approached online all the time by, come join EXP and come join these and, all this kind of stuff, because a lot of what I do is on YouTube, on Facebook and Instagram. So people are obviously seeing it. And I hate jumping ship. I'm really loyal to a brand. And I'd rather not see that the grass is greener on the other side until I feel like it's time to take a step. And actually taking a step to buy design was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's just gone like that.
Brilliant. What was if you don't mind me asking, what was the kind of trigger for that step? Apart from, I see you've kind of mentioned that you just felt there wasn't enough emphasis on the premium.
So I've got a huge respect for the company I was working for.
Yeah, definitely.
But new starters and agents who had been in the business for 20 years were being sent to me for me to teach them how to market properties and how to get into the high-end market. And I'd only been doing it for 2 years. And I didn't even come from the industry. And I'm just like, if I like to look up to people and work with people who are going to pull me up. And I just felt like there wasn't people in that business that were sort of close enough, sort of like-minded. Whereas I looked at the work of By Design and I looked at the other agents that had joined, and I just thought, you know what, that's a group of people I want to work with. I want to be giving them a ring, talking about their strategy, seeing how they've done this, you know, and I just didn't have that at the agency. And that was the point where I said, I need to step.
That's good, because it kind of what you've identified is what's important to you.
It's my business, and I'm not going to stay doing something that I feel like I was starting to plateau. I needed to go up,
moving up.
And it was it worked.
So how long has it been now officially?
It was March, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1st of March.
Yeah, so it was March.
So you're a few months in.
Yeah.
Tell us about the journey so far. I'd love to know more.
It's really good, because I think when you talk about, and I do talk about David quite a lot, and David's background.
Oh. Thanks, Matt.
I'm a proud dad.
I talk about David. I look up to David. No, but I talk about David's background and the clients that he's worked with. The agents that he's worked with, and the reach of the network that we have, and the reach of the brand. And it goes beyond, local agent with local buyers. It's national buyers. It's international buyers. And we've got a property at the moment, we've just had a conversation yesterday in Russia with someone, thanks to Chat GPT, because it's gone so much bigger than,
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I think that was the pull for me. It was, if there's a way that we can do it, we'll find that way and we'll go for it. Not, this is the way that we do it, and then it felt a bit stale, Yeah.
I've always thought there's this balance between the personal brand and then the business brand that's behind it. And I think that my opinion is that you need both. You need to have that personal brand and the business brand behind it. One on its own is okay, but where the magic happens when those two things come together. And you had that personal brand. You could see that from the quality of the property presentation you'd done. And just as you said earlier, how prominent you were on socials. And I think it's making sure that aligns with the business brand that you have as well, sort of backs up the personality.
I think so, yeah.
Is that what you've found? And what's your journey been like with developing your personal brand? Because that's often a sensitive subject for agents now as they come into getting more on socials and more on camera and so on.
I mean, I've had to adopt social media. All independent agents have to. Even probably high street agents are doing it as well now. But before I joined the first agency, when I made that step into estate agency, I closed all my social media down because I hated social media.
Really?
I hated it. Like
just personally for browsing,
browsing. I never needed it for business. And I just hated the nonsense and the rubbish that was being put out there. And I was sort of flicking, just going, this has literally added nothing to my life. And I don't need to catch up with old friends from school and stuff. Like, I've got a close friendship group who I talk to all the time. I don't need to see what others are doing and listen to, people showing themselves off on holidays, like pretending like they're living the best life. Like, I just wanted to get rid of that. And then I obviously had to became a self-employed agent, and they said, you've got to open up all your social media again. And so I had to. It's
funny, that's actually quite a common thing. I remember when Adam Lascelles, who runs By Design Lincolnshire, came on the podcast, said exactly the same thing, hated socials. And he still doesn't go on it to consume anything.
No.
He just goes on it because he knows that he has to. Yeah. And he's very deliberate about what he puts on because it's all about business for him.
Yes, and I'm in the process of trying to put more personality behind it. I'm a perfectionist in everything I do.
And that's the designer in you, isn't it?
That's the designer in me. Yeah. And that is, that's a flaw as well when it comes to social media, because people say, don't worry about it being perfect, just get it out there. Quantity is better than quality. And so I don't. I put out nice stuff that I think is really refined, and it takes a long time to put it out, and it does fairly well engagement.
I think there's an element I would challenge there, not to you, but to the statement, because I think your authenticity is the thing that attracts your audience.
Yeah, I don't think I don't show anything behind the scenes of what I do, and I am looking at bringing on a videographer to do vlogging. so that we can basically vlog the journey. So
again, that is a common theme as well.
And we're going to get into that at some point. Yeah. Because I want someone to come to photo shoots with us. I want them to come with me around Leamington and Warwick, and we'll talk about the streets and we'll talk about the property prices and what's happening. But if I do it on my phone or hold a camera or a tripod, I think it feels really staged and not very natural.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing as well, isn't it? Because there's the quality of the videography and the audio and so on, but then there's also the actual content of what you're putting out as well. And I'm never quite sure of where that line is. So like I was actually talking to my wife about this last night. I saw something on my business Instagram profile, and it really made me laugh. And it was like a meme about a 1% agent, and it made me laugh. And I said, "Shall I repost that?" It's made me laugh. He was like, "Oh, I don't know." And I was like, "Oh, okay, then I won't." And I didn't. And I was like, I don't know whether to be. You don't know how much to let on, and then also is it that humour side as well, and then how much to put in about your family and kids and all that sort of stuff. I never quite know where the right line is.
So here's my take on it. So I've done all of the things that have put you off of social media over the years. So let me just put that out there. I'm one of the ones you wanted to avoid.
But I kind of have as well.
but you know, for me, I don't overthink it, overfeel it.
Yeah.
And if it feels right, post it. Because that's real. When you think about it, you can outthink yourself so many times, not into sharing something that could be quite vulnerable, quite real. And I think they're the things that bring your personality out. And I think as you speak it, you should write it, you know?
Yeah.
And because I believe that you're going to attract clients that probably want someone who is highly detailed. They do appreciate the time, the effort, the strategy. They want someone like that. And I think the more you emphasize that, because that's who you really are, the more people that like that will become attracted to you.
I think that as well, which is why I'm not just chucking anything out there.
So doing the vlogging is great because actually it's not artificial, it's not staged, it's actually, this is what I'm doing today, this is what I'm talking about, this happened, that happened.
But it's still high quality.
And it's still
high quality.
It's your presentation.
And I don't know who said it, but someone was talking about the content you put out on social media. By doing videos, don't put it on there if the video quality is poor and the audio is poor, because actually that's more negative than even putting it on there. So the quality of the imagery and the audio is actually very, very important, because everybody's now used to almost cinematic mode on phones and portrait mode and 4K and all that. And if you suddenly see something that's a little bit grainy or a bit dark and it's a bit tinny, on it sounds like they clearly don't have a mic or they've put it in the wrong position. You're like, oh no, swipe.
It's so true. And I do think that there's an argument to say that the differentiation is in the detail. So I don't know whether you had a chance to listen to it, but we only released it last week. There was a podcast we did with Tanya Baker, and she says something in there which I was like, I love that so much, because her voiceovers sounded perfect. And the way to do that was she put her phone or a microphone into a pillow, so it muffled all of the audio, all of the echoes were gone, and it sounds incredible. And I was like, wow, to go to that level of detail just to worry about how it sounds on someone's phone with a rubbish little phone speaker, but it makes a difference. And that's the detail I think that differentiates her.
Yeah, but it's authentically consistent, and you know how she is across all of her work. You can see the personality, and that's what people are connecting with is that. And so she'll have her audience. Now, for some clients, they won't want Tanya. Or Tanya. They won't. They just won't connect with that at all. But that's really good, because she hasn't got to go through the process of trying to convince someone that they need to listen to her. You know. So I think it's actually really good to know your niche, rather than try and become all things to all people on social.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I did hear that interview with Tanya, and and she's tried the Rode mics, and she's tried different places, like different rooms to record in and stuff. And I completely understand what what she's saying, because we launched a property which you've seen, which is the Priest House in Bromsgrove, and we did the recording. Now I will do the full audio there and then, even if there's B-roll over the top, because I want the consistency of the sound to stay consistent. I don't want to go away and read it, because then you get that difference. Unfortunately, the owners wanted to change some of the stuff that we had said, so we had to. I was like, okay, so I tried to find an environment similar with the same mics and all. And
did you really?
Yeah. And I filmed it. We did it 3 times, And I sent it, and they sent it back, and I said, no, it doesn't sound any good. Went and did it somewhere else, sent it off to them. They put it in the edit. No, that's still not sounding quite right. And he said, look, I'm trying to put in noise that's similar to the birds and all this. I'm trying to level it. And the guy who does it used to work in sound leveling and stuff. He was a sound engineer. And he said, look, I'm getting as close as I possibly can. We reshot it with all the professional cameras. Like, we've done it so many times.
That's the trouble with detail people.
They hate, like, if you look at the messages, he's like, are you joking? And I was like, no, I need you to do it, and I need it today. He's just like,
but the outcome of that, though, I will say, like, that property video for me, and we've all probably seen quite a lot, that set a kind of new high tide mark for how
let's tell people where to find that, because I think that'll be
your YouTube channel, isn't it? How they find you on YouTube? Or
so
on the By Design website as well.
It's simon.cowie.uk on pretty much all the social media handles.
So you can find that video. That's the one in Bromsgrove.
And that one, I mean, beautiful property, and obviously there's really nice history to it, and the local area and the estate. There is a connection to Guy Fawkes. My birthday is the 5th of November, so I just loved that when they first told me that. But it's a very Bridgerton kind of style house on a slightly smaller scale, but there's a beautiful driveway up to it, you know, and I just had this vision in my head. Okay, there's got to be a car driving up, and it can't just be a Porsche. It can't be, you know, anything like that. It's got to be an old car. So we found a Morgan, you know, managed to find a dealer with a Morgan, a restorer with a Morgan. And there was that level that, look, this is exactly what I want. And when Dream Home took it on and they produced that edit.
So this really kind of
brings it look perfect. Like that car out the front of that house.
I spent about probably 2 hours finding the right music for it. Like, I was literally at home going through every track on this.
You had a vision of what you wanted it to look like.
Yeah, because that's what we used to do.
And your creative flair kind of kicks into gear.
Absolutely. We used to storyboard, you know, when we were designing. You know, we used to go, okay, what's the feel of this?
Do you talk about that when you're on evaluation? Is that something that you would kind of bring as part of your difference?
Definitely, yeah. I was at one just the other day, and again, it's almost it's a Georgian property. It's grand. It's got this beautiful driveway. It's got lights up, you know. And again, I said, look, you've seen the one that we did. I've sent it across to you. I think, and I'm going to do it again. We'll use the car and we'll set the tone, because what we want is within that first 5-10 seconds to set the tone for the property. You know, there's the hotel one, you know, down in Devon. You know, we had to set the location. So there's beautiful shots of the coast and the sunrise and all of that. It's telling the story. It's not just showing the house.
That one in Devon as well is amazing. That kind of time lapse of where the sun goes down is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did you say you've got another property? Are you using the Morgan again?
Maybe not the Morgan. I could use the Morgan, and it would fit beautifully.
People are going to think that's your car now. Vendors will expect you to turn up in a Morgan.
I've driven the Aston Martin Vantage S, Porsche 911, the Morgan, the Porsche Cayenne. None of them are my cars. Like, it's either the owner's cars or we find someone who's happy to have it featured.
That's great though, because you're putting a lot of effort into that.
Yeah, I mean, I drive a car that's okay. Like, it's a nice car, but it doesn't fit in with the property. So there's absolutely no point in me literally just rocking up.
So what you're selling is lifestyle. The story brings the lifestyle to life.
If we've got an equestrian property, we will show someone walking a horse up the track or around the menage or something like that. Yeah. Like, this is the lifestyle. Someone has asked me to take it a step further and actually film them with all of their family having a dinner party in the Priest-House. You know, and you know, there's a level of where the production suddenly jumps, and the cost is a lot more, and we either have to bring in actors or the family do it or whatever, and maybe we're stepping too far, because at the end of the day, our video needs to be around 2 minutes 40. We can't go 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. We've done 6 minutes.
It must be quite difficult to edit it down.
It's a snapshot. Yeah. It's a trailer to a film.
Yeah. That's how to look at it, right?
Yeah. Look, here's a snapshot. It's really emotive, beautiful music, beautiful shots. You know, there's some wide shots.
Like that's a trailer, isn't it? It's a nice way of.
That's exactly what it is. You know, and we do a shorter version as well, which really is the trailer.
Yeah.
You know, like the coming soon. The car's pulling up.
Yeah.
And then fade to black. You just get a glimpse of the house, and it's coming soon. Wicked. You know.
I love the sound of that. It's great, and I think that really does set the tone of difference. So, you know, most clients will probably have 2 or 3 agents, unless you've been highly recommended and they've already made their mind up. But most of the time it's. And I think a lot of people that are selling a property, you know, in the lower end of the market, they'll choose people based on their fees and their pricing structures or value, if they're valued it at what they want or whatever. But I think this is where I feel like that process that you're taking people through at the top can come down in certain ways, not maybe the budget for videography, but the points of difference. So if you're listening to this and you're working in the middle or even lower end of the market, it's still about adapting the story to the lifestyle, to the consumer that's going to be interested, or the target market.
I think so. I think so. And it's when I'm sitting with a seller and I can maybe hear a bit of hesitation. You know, they're really like, it sounds like they maybe like what we're saying or I'm saying to them. You know, there's a lot. Like I try and overload them enough that they're just like, okay, that's crazy. Are you actually going to do all of it? It's like, yeah, absolutely. And we do talk figures about how much things are going to cost. And that's, you know, we've got to get that out in the open straight away. But I actually say, look, get in X agency and this agency and that agency who do similar sort of stuff to us, see what they're going to offer. And sometimes I feel quite confident, you know, see what they're doing. Yeah. Because then you'll see the value in this. Ask them about their results, ask them about their reach. You know, are they on this platform? You know, are they going to be doing this? Because I want them to see that I'm not just doing the same as everyone else.
Perfect segue actually for my next question, which was around fees. Because before we were talking about that, you talked about a specific approach you have when it comes to talking about fees with vendors as well, and what you do before the appointment.
Yes.
So talk to me about that.
So I've had different results talking about fees. You can go into a listing thinking they've called me out. They've actually told me on the phone, we want to use you. And you go a little bit relaxed on it and you kind of don't prepare as much. You know the comparables and you know all that kind of stuff and you talk them through it. And then you kind of say, look, how soon do you want to be moving forward with it? And I haven't really provided them with anything other than a conversation. But when there's properties who I don't know the sellers, they've called me and they may say, you know, we've called a few agents out. I'll do maybe 2 or 3 hours prep and put together a whole marketing plan for them, step by step. This is exactly what we're going to do. Week 1, week 2. This is where it's going to go. All these social media platforms. This is how much we're probably going to invest financially into this and this. Then we can look at the media. We can start looking at newspapers. Do you want it in the Times? Do you want it, you know, abroad? We can put it on the, you know, and when they see a document like that, they're kind of blown away, and the fee suddenly makes perfect sense. Yeah. If you don't do that prep work and you go in, you know, my fees are 2.5% or whatever, they're like, okay, seems quite a lot. You know?
I think it's like I say, preparation, isn't it? It prevents piss poor performance. But it's true it's true in this sense, because what they're looking at is you've already managed their expectations before you arrive. Yeah. So mentally, I think you can win. I hate to say the win, but you can build or win trust before you even arrive.
Yes. So I had a method of, if somebody calls me and says, look, say it's on a Tuesday, and you know, well, can you come out on Thursday? I will try and get a marketing proposal to them before I even meet them, which just highlights basically where we're going to be putting the property, socials, something to read through. I'll always have links to like QR codes to videos, some of the social media posts, and say, look, there's so much to talk about. Read through this and then we can go in more detail on the day. I don't want them sitting for 3 minutes watching a video, because I have done that, and you get the laptop up and they sit and they watch, and it's the most awkward 3 minutes.
And look at that, it's good, isn't it?
And then there's me on screen and I'm talking and I'm just like,
no, you're right. Because give them the opportunity to see what they really like and question them around it.
Yeah, let them take it in their own time, so that by the time you've gone in, they feel they kind of know you a bit better anyway, and they know kind of what you're going to talk about. So the expectation's already been set before you've walked through the door.
I'm going to go back a touch, because obviously it's 3 months in. A lot of agents who are thinking of making that step are already in the market itself, in the premium end. They'll be going through some real challenges.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we should discuss with every guest when they come in. I think we tend to. What have been the biggest challenges that you've faced so far? Setting your own business up.
I think finding the business. I think getting into doors at the early stages was probably the hard thing. I'm based in Leamington, and there is an abundance of beautiful properties. You know, £1 million plus market is, you know, strong in Leamington and Warwick and Stratford. But my difficulty was that I was with a brand that was not very well known, and so I was having to get past that hurdle first. And there were brands which were much better known in the area, which were sort of winning business without even having to do anything. And so I think that was the first hurdle, but also because I hadn't worked as an agent for a long time, and I didn't have the properties to show, something I did was I reached out to a friend's dad who has a beautiful property. I mean, I ended up listing it later, but I said, I know you're thinking of moving at some point, but can I come in and do all my media stuff as if we're selling it as a case study to show people of what we can do? So I paid, it was over £1,000 to get Dream Home in and do all the mock-ups of social media and everything. We didn't launch it, but I wanted to use it to show people what we could do. And they prepared the whole home and had it all, dressed and everything. And I didn't have a property to sell in that price bracket. And so I used that as a case study to say, we've just filmed this one. It's not on the market yet, but this is what we can do. And that was enough for people to go.
So your how to get over that was, let me find a property that this is the kind of thing that I want to represent.
Yeah.
So you know your marketplace.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to go and present these houses. This is what we're going to do. And you use that as your...
that was my case study for every door I went into. So I would send them that because I didn't want to send them a 300 grand house when I'm trying to get into the door of a 1.4 million pound property. And we were trying to feature as many things as possible, really nice close-up detail shots, drone footage, everything possible to say this is what we do. And that served me really, really well.
So here, I'm picking up slightly here that your visual marketing is really highly detailed.
Yeah.
So, when you think of detail, perhaps you think about the written form and you're thinking like, in go back in a estate agency, there was these lovely brochures and no one read them. And you got loads printed off laminated and you'd sit in a drawer and then you'd dead file them. And the words in it were lengthy, boring, if I'm quite honest.
Yep.
So you
creative.
Yeah. And but I think from what I'm hearing here, you really emphasised the need to show and for people to be able to really connect.
People feel, they feel with the pictures emotions. And videos. Videos, as most of us know, are shared 10 times more than photos online. They are viewed 10 times more. So, video is so important. And in that 2 minutes or that 3 minutes, with the right music and with the right editing, you can really strike a chord with some people. With the hotel, the lady, and she probably won't mind me saying, she was in tears when she watched that video.
That's incredible.
That sale means a huge amount to her and her family and stuff that they want to go on to do and stuff they've gone through. And she was in tears and she just texted me immediately and was just like,
blown away.
You nailed it. So, and she just said straight away, she goes, look, I've been in tears and I'm just blown away. Have we got a buyer yet? And just straight away, but I think there's so much power and people's attention is so much shorter now that you have to grab it like that. And I think visual, not words. Words have a place, and I do brochures. Every property has brochures. So people can go away with a nice, beautiful brochure.
So if they turn up to a viewing,
they'll get a brochure. The description is fairly short. Yeah, fairly short.
So going back to something you said a second ago, it is really interesting because I'm a big advocate of the premium market, but I think, and once you get momentum in it, it's great and you can sustain it and it becomes a wonderful business. The hard part is getting it started, and what you've just shared there is a great way to start off a premium business, because you need a track record and so on, and that's quite hard to do.
You need a case study. Need a case study, yeah. Even if you haven't sold it though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You're showing what you're capable of from a marketing perspective.
And actually, if you don't have a friend whose dad has a beautiful home to film, work with your company. So say we have sold this, and we have sold this, and we use talk about use the brand, because you don't have to go in alone saying I haven't sold anything at this price. You say, we sold this at 4 million.
You lean on the brand.
Lean on the brand. And I actually did that very early on. I used to say, we've done this and that. This went on the market at 1.5 million. We just sold that for 1.7 or whatever. These were other agents' stats, but they were our stats as a brand.
This new kind of like you're off and running, you've got some traction now, you can feel it in your voice and you can see it in the results through your marketing. From a sales perspective, what do you see that climate looking like? You said it's a strong market, over 1 million where you are in that area. How's the selling of the houses in that market? Is it tricky still, or what's your strategy if things aren't moving after 8-12 weeks?
So yeah, our strategy is obviously in the strength of our lead up, making sure we get enough traction early on. But then I'm very open with my sellers. And I'll go back to something else they said actually afterwards. But I will be very upfront and honest with them and say, if we don't get the result we want, then this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to take the feedback, we're going to have another look at comparables, and we're going to see what we can do. Now, if the feedback is coming back at stuff that we cannot change, then maybe we just keep pushing and we just haven't found the right buyer. But at a certain point, we'll then start doing another campaign on social media, and we'll start putting more money into it. To me, there's not really an end to how much money we put into it until it suddenly gets a bit silly, and then I'm completely losing money on the listing. But I'm more than happy to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And as long as the communication with that seller is constant, then they're happy to keep going.
And is that because they've chosen the right pricing strategy from the off? And if that makes sense.
It has to be important, yeah. And I do have a conversation. I think you might have said it as well. We will go online to the buyers competitively. We don't want to be listing it too high and see what happens. It's just going to kill the listing. It's a big risk for some people because we're looking at price brackets and we're looking at this and that, but we just need to get enough people through the door. And to have that conversation with them and for them to really buy into it is quite hard sometimes. But when we do it and we do it right, it works so well. It doesn't always. And obviously there's loads of stuff going on in the economy and interest rates and stuff. And there is buyer hesitation. And in the premium market, obviously there's not as many buyers for the properties. But I think once the sellers have seen the quality of the media and the results of the social media campaigns, how many views it's got.
Very hard to argue against.
Yeah, like if you go to another agency, what are they going to do differently? And I actually offer referral fees to other agencies. So I'll say, bring me a buyer and I will pay you X amount because I'd rather collaborate with them. They may have a buyer they're holding on to going, I'm going to poach that one day and then I'll bring in this buyer if they haven't already seen it. But I'd rather give out a good chunk of my fee to make sure that sale goes through because I'm thinking of the client and their result. So
I sound like a broken record when I say it, but competition happens at the bottom, collaboration happens at the top, and that's another example of it.
Definitely.
So, not my last question, my penultimate question. What does the future look like for your business then? Obviously, we're early stages into where you are with By Design and running it as yourself now. What does the future look like for expansion, for growth, and where do you want to see your business in, say, 3 years' time?
I want to keep growing my personal brand in the areas that I work in within Warwickshire. So I want that to hopefully take over some of the competitors who are maybe dominating because they've been there for so many years.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that we're one of the first 2 agents to be called. If someone in the premium market is going to come on the market, it's this agency plus Simon. I actually cover quite a big area of Warwickshire and just outside. So I do want to build up a team because I want those premium agents to also build our brand, but I want them, there's so much property out there. I can't deal with all of it anyway, but I want us to get into as many doors as possible and for them to just keep seeing the By Design brand and hopefully collaborate a bit more in Warwickshire and also pushing it out obviously nationally. So yeah, it's to grow a team, but I'm going to be very careful about who I bring on. I don't want to handhold. I'm not looking for someone who wants to jump up into the higher end market, wants to kind of understand what we do. I want someone to come in and say, give me this area. I dominate in that area, but I love the brand, I love your collaboration, I love your network, I love all this kind of stuff, but I want to operate here. Fine, go for it. Let me know if you want us to do anything together. I'll send people to you, you send people to us, all that kind of stuff. So I want people who can just run on their own.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And as I always say, from the sublime to the ridiculous. So you may or may not know we have a closing tradition on the podcast where you are on Property Porn Stars and everyone has a porn star name whether they know it or not, which is comprised of your middle name and your first pet's name. And you've got a long way to go because it drives me absolutely nuts. Since episode 1, he's had the top spot and we just can't knock Kevin Tiny off podium position.
I still
can't blame your parents for this.
Yeah, no, it's not going to knock you off.
Okay.
It's not going to knock you off.
I was hoping that would get knocked off.
No, it's Nicholas Smee.
Smee?
I had a hamster called Smee.
Is Smee from Peter Pan or something?
It was the fat like the second in command on or whatever. Yeah, like the shipmate. Yeah, Smee.
I think you've been a brilliant guest, and I've didn't realise how quickly that had all just gone. So you just asking that question's maybe go, we're here already, so we'll chat afterwards. But it's been an absolute pleasure being here today, coming into London, spending time in the studio and sharing your wisdom. And I think for any agents out there, follow Simon Cowie on his socials, which are probably LinkedIn, Instagram as the main ones. But just to thank you from me, I've really sat here and learnt loads this afternoon. So
thank you for inviting me on.
No, thank you. It's been really interesting, and I think just following from what you said there, I think especially to look at some of the videography that you're doing, it is cinematic and very different to what's out there at the moment. So I think that's definitely worth paying attention to. I can understand why it made your vendor cry, hopefully for the right reasons.
But I mean that is all praise has to go to the editors and the videographers. I mean, I can tell them what I think is right, but I'm going on their experience and their skills. Like, they are incredible. They make me look good on screen. And obviously, because when you're the front man of you are the presenter, they don't think about who's filmed it. They think about you, and it's your video. Yeah. But actually, it's their video.
Yeah.
So, full credit to Dreamhack.
I don't think any of these property TV programs that are out there now, I've got to have to look too far to find presenters for their shows. I mean, there's so many good presenters out there for the property. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Simon, thank you.
Cheers.
And thank you for listening to or watching this episode of Property Porn Stars. We hope you enjoyed it. And a quick favour, if you've made it this far into the episode, then it means that hopefully you've got as much out of today as Matt and I have from talking to Simon. So if you could share this episode with a colleague who you think might benefit from listening to Simon's pearls of wisdom, we'd greatly appreciate it. And it means that we can share the knowledge with more and more people.
100%.
We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.